Well, greetings, my beloved clients and friends. It's been a while since we talked, and markets have been performing pretty favorably year to date. Seems like the worst of last year is past us, and we're ready to move forward. So I don't want to talk too much about current events and current market situations. Maybe take a step back and talk from a more big picture standpoint, and just about wealth in general, and how to grow it and preserve it over time, over a lifetime, and how to compound wealth over time. And so it's here's a basic simple strategy. Just get down to the brass tacks. Here's what you want to do. You want to generate an income and then use that income to generate more income. And if you do that, you will build and compound wealth over time. That's it. Step one, generate an income. Step two, use that income to generate more income. So let me give you an example. So I had a client who had a business, and it was like a tractor supply business. It wasn't part of that big chain. It was just the one store that he owned, and he serviced farmers, right? And it was a business that he inherited from his father. And this is what he told me. He said, when his dad gave him the business, he said, he said, the reason I'm giving you this business is so that you could buy real estate with it. Right? That was it. That's the dad understood what I just said. The business generates income. Use that income to generate more income. So from the proceeds of the business, which it generates income, use that income to go out and start buying real estate. And that real estate is going to generate more income, right? So now you're going to have two sources of income, and your income's going to go up. And use that income to buy more properties that will also generate income. And it'll just keep compounding and compounding and compounding, right? So another example would be, you open a hamburger stand and you're able to, sell hamburgers and pay all your bills and have a profit, right? It's a profitable business because the income covers all the expenses plus a little bit more. So what do you do with that income? Go out and open another one, right? Now you have two. Did your income go up? Yeah. And with that extra income, what do? Go out and open another one, right? And that's what McDonald's does. They sell hamburgers for a profit, and with that profit, they go open another one, right? Maybe that income now gives you credit, so you're able to borrow money to open that other one. That's fine. As long as the income is more than the loan, you're still generating positive income, right? And that's what we look for in a business that, one, generates income, and two, uses that income to generate more income, right? It could be like Procter & Gamble. I don't know what they started on, but let's say they started with shampoo, and they start selling shampoo at the grocery stores, and it's profitable. And what they do with the profits? Buy the next shampoo that was on the grocery shelf next to them, right? Now they have two. And then what do they do with that? They buy the body wash, and then they buy the deodorant, and then they buy the toothpaste company, and then they buy the toothbrush, and because they generate income with one business, and they use that income to generate more income, and they just keep compounding. They go down the whole aisle, and eventually, they go to that grocer and they could supply his entire aisle. And the grocer likes it because he only has to talk to one supplier instead of 50, and it works out for Procter and Gamble, because as they buy up these companies, they have overlap. They have two sales forces and they only need one. They have two accounting departments and they only need one. And they have two factories and they only need one. And when the truck goes to deliver it, it's just one truck delivering all the stuff, right? So they're able to become more efficient. They had two CEOs and now they only have one, and so they become more efficient. And even advertising, they could now they're national, and if one product was in one store and the other product was in another store, now they go and say, let's put that other product into this store and let's put that other product into that store. So it just becomes very efficient, and it's a repeatable process, and they could keep buying, using that income to generate more income over time, and it just keeps compounding over years and decades because they have this business model that's very efficient. Not all businesses have that, but a few of them do, and when we find one, we like it and we could hold it a long time and just let it compound our wealth as they generate income and use that income to generate more income. And they come to a size where it's mature, It could start out as a local company, then it becomes a statewide company, then regional, then national, and then, maybe they're able to cross the pond and go global or not. But at some point it runs out of worlds to conquer, like Alexander the Great, who started in Macedon and then Greece, and then he went east and started conquering worlds or empires and building his own empire. And I think it was at the age of 32, he lay on his bed crying because he had reached the Indian Ocean and there were no more worlds left to conquer. And so he ran out. So, that's how you say, well, when do you sell this company? Well, we sell it when it gets to the Indian Ocean. There's no worlds left to conquer, because then it's the growth slows down. It could continue to grow, and they could continue to grow by paying down their debt, which makes them more profitable, or buying back their shares, which continues to make them more profitable, and they can continue to grow, but the growth kind of starts to slow down when they hit that maturity level. It reminds me of my son when he was little. When I was little, I was spoiled. My mom did everything for me, and she even cut my fingernails probably till I was like 12. And I didn't want that for my son. I didn't want him to be such a baby. And so he used to, by the time he was like 5 or 6, the little guy was cutting his own nails, and he did fine. But he would do this. He'd always cut the last one too short. And you could probably figure out why, because he'd cut one, and when it was good, he'd go to the next one. Then he'd cut that one, and it was good, he'd go to the next one. But on the last one, there was no other one to go to, so he'd keep cutting until it got too short and it would bleed. And so yeah, it was like there was no worlds left to conquer after he cut that last one. And that's the time that that company reaches maturity. But it has those 10 fingers to go through, and you can get growth over a long period of time. So it's pretty straightforward. And you don't really have to worry about the ups and downs. Your company, and it's compounding. And there's basically three rules to do that. One is spend less than you make. So the company has to spend less than they make. They have to be profitable. And if you manage your household that way, it works too. Spend less than you make. And with that income that you have left over, buy income producing assets, right? For a business, they could, if they use that profits to buy more equipment or open more stores or buy another company, right, or expand in some way, that company is going to continue to grow, because with those profits, they grow their business. And rule number 3 is don't pay too much. As long as an individual or as in a company, they're diligent about, how they acquire and how they grow, it could keep working. And we've seen companies get in trouble that they get reckless in paying too much for acquiring a new business or to buying more income, or they get out of their expertise, right? And maybe they did get they got to the maturity size of their business, and they still had more cash coming in, and then they started trying to get into other areas that they weren't good at. We've seen that happen before. So those are the kind of the pitfalls to be aware of and how it works. And so when you have that type of company, it's gonna compound over time, and you could kind of figure out how much it's going to compound by how much they have in net income and what kind of return they get on that. So there's some calculations that we do in the office to get an idea of on an annual basis, how much has this company been compounding, and can it continue, and what kind of long-term compounding can we expect. And if it beats a hurdle at 12%, then we like that in the portfolio. And as long as we buy it at a decent price, we should get that type of compounding. Now, the market has an opinion of what that company is worth, and they express their opinion on a daily basis. And you see the prices go up and down, and what that price reflects is what somebody just paid for it. What one person decided they were willing to pay for it a second ago. That's what that price reflects. Now, that person could be sound and astute, or he could be completely off, right? You don't know. I don't know who that person was or what his motivation was for buying that price. He might have paid way too much, or he might have got a fantastic deal because the seller panicked and sold it way too cheap, right? So that price that you see on the ticker or on your statement or on your phone at any given moment, it could be rational or not, right? There could be all kinds of motivation. The important thing is to know, well, what's the value of my company? Not so much what was the price that the last person paid for it. Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's say you owned a McDonald's, and someone said, well, what do you think your McDonald's is worth? And you could answer it a couple ways. One way you can say, well, the land's worth $1 million, and the structure is worth another $900,000, and all the equipment I got in there is about $200,000. Then I have my inventory and the cash that's in the till, and so if I add that all up, it's probably about 2.2 million, right? That could be one way you could answer that question. Or you could say, another way you could answer that question is like, well, last year it made $1 million, and they usually sell for 2.5 times earnings, so that would be 2.5 million. So I'd say it's worth around 2.5. So either way, you come to maybe 2.2, 2.5, and so you don't know exactly what it's worth, but you have an idea. You have an idea, and it's in the low to mid twos is about what my business is worth, right? And that's good to know, because let's say one day someone walks in and says, hey, can I speak to the owner? And they go and get you, and they say, yeah, how can I help you? And the guy says, well, I'd like to buy your business. I'll give you $1 million for it. And you know what it's worth. In the back of your head, this thing's worth 2.5, that kind of price range. Are you gonna freak out and panic like, oh, my business is only worth $1 million because this guy only offered me $1 million? I just lost half my wealth. Oh man, what happened? And no, you're gonna be like, no, thank you. Have a nice day, right? You don't even have to entertain that guy. And let's say a couple days later, someone walks in and says the same thing. Hey, is the owner around? And they go get you, and he says, hey, I'd like to buy your business for you. I'll give you $5 million for it. What would you do? Well, you know it's worth about 2.5, that price range. This guy is, if he really could give you that money, maybe you'd take it. You know, you're making $1 million a year on it, and maybe you don't want to get out, but and then you start thinking, well, with $5 million, I could go and buy 2 of them, you know? So maybe you do take it. Because you know his offer was way more than what it's really worth, right? So, or maybe you don't, but at least when you know the value, or at least an estimate of the value, you don't get too swayed by what the price some random stranger that walked in is offering you, right? And a lot of people get affected that way when they own stocks and all they're looking at is the chart or the price, and they get moved by what someone else just recently paid for it. And here's what someone might make the mistake. They said, well, a couple days ago a guy offered me $1 million. A couple days later a guy offered me 5. I'm not gonna take it because in a couple days someone might offer me 9. This thing's going up like crazy, right? And you start getting excited. And you're like, heck no, I'm not gonna sell it to you for 5. I'm gonna wait a couple. If I wait only 2 more days, someone's gonna walk in and offer me 9 because people think linearly, and they get super excited and they go, hey, let's go on a vacation because guess what? My business is worth 5. Someone just offered me, you know. But it's not. You know that it's only worth 2.5, and so you wouldn't make that mistake. Now, what if they happened to come in on different days? What if the $5 million guy walked in first? 2 days later, the $1 million guy walked in. Right? These both idiots don't know what the company's worth, and they both offered you ridiculous offers, right? One was ridiculous high, the other one was ridiculous low. But let's say this time they went in the other order. Would you get extremely depressed and you say, oh, I lost $4 million in 2 days? I better. 2 days ago, a guy offered me 5. Now a guy only offered me $1 million. I better take it, because if I don't, in 2 more days, I might have to give somebody $4 million to get rid of my business, because it's going down quite fast, right? No, you would not panic and you would not think that way because you know what it's worth. You see what I'm saying? So when you have an idea of what it's worth, you don't get super excited from a high price, and you don't get super bummed out about a low price. You know that eventually the market comes to its senses. It goes through periods of greed and fear, and it changes on a day-to-day basis. And you're there watching the news, and they get super excited about some report, and then very next day they get super pessimistic about another report. And people get whipsawed, and because the only thing they're looking at is the price of what they own, and they don't have a good understanding of the value of what they own, and it causes sometimes bad decisions. You know, they sell just because it's going down because they think it's going to keep going down, or they hold on too long because it's going up and they think it's going to keep going up, or they buy more, right? Because they don't realize these things have, and anything that generates an income has a value. The value is based on that income. And I went a little bit long, so I'll talk about that next time, about how something with an income has value and how you can calculate that value. But I just wanted to get to the point that, you know, if Benjamin Graham called what I'm talking about Mr. Market. That there's this guy named Mr. Market that always has an opinion, and he's always whispering in your ear what he wants to, what he thinks your business is worth, and sometimes he's just wacky, right? So don't get too swayed when, and he has a emotional instability problem. He's manic depressive, and don't get too swayed when he's overly optimistic, and don't get too swayed when he's overly pessimistic, because that's his nature. If you understand what the value of your company is, you could just keep chugging along and just keep an eye on that company and make sure that it is maintaining and growing its value, and you'll be fine. Okay, so just want to give you some perspective, and we'll continue on these type of big picture themes. I think it's good and refreshing and helpful to hear it every now and then. All right, have a wonderful day.